الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, we continue the phases of Madarij al-Salikeen with the very first one, the one that's called al-Yaqadha, which means an awakening. So of course it means a spiritual awakening, and one can appreciate why this is the first stage of spirituality, because in order to begin a life of piety, in order to begin one's road to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they need to actually wake up and, as we say, smell the coffee, smell the iman. And you find that the Quran does just that. So this concept of Yaqadha, it is about awakening the heart to recognizing a few things. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَتَكُونَ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا أَوْ آذَانٌ يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا فَإِنَّهَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارُ وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبُ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, have they not traveled the lands and they look around? So I'm translating the meaning of this verse. Have they not traveled the lands and have they not looked around? And has their heart not understood the world around them? Okay? So when you travel, you find that you're more attentive. You're paying more attention to what's around, the detail. And you begin to appreciate things that you might have taken for granted in your own home. So someone who, us living here in this area, we have this beauty and these mountains, and now the earth is green. Someone born and raised here might forget about the value that offers a person. So when a person travels, they're paying attention to detail, and it wakes up their heart. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that when they travel, do they not have a heart to understand the realities around them, or ears to understand? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, indeed it doesn't blind the one's vision, but rather it's the heart that's blind. If a person does not understand the purpose, I underline this word, this is the key word, the purpose of the natural world around us, what it represents, then they become blinded to the realities that they live around, to their own reality. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the very first verses, the very first verses, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لا يعلم. I mean, these are very powerful verses that might not make sense when you read them. What is Allah telling the Prophet ﷺ? But when you go to scholarship and you read what they say, it makes perfect sense. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet ﷺ, tells us to proclaim by the name of our Lord, the one who created humans from a clot of blood, alaq. So it goes to the creation of human beings. And then it says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, proclaim by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the akram, the most generous, the most gracious, and taught human beings by the pen and taught them what they don't know. So the two main points here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gracious and that He created us from a clot of blood. What is this saying? It's saying, do you think the one who's most gracious, right, the one who's always giving, the one who, when He gives or creates, He creates with wisdom, for a reason, with purpose, and created you from a clot of blood, which is in of itself quite amazing. You start off, a human being starts off as this clot of blood, and by itself, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it keeps evolving or developing, right? It goes through these stages, little by little, and it takes human form, and it starts getting its senses, and its mind starts working. It gets a gender. Do you think all of that detail is void of purpose? Do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's the most gracious, created us without purpose? No. Then know that these verses are coming to you to remind you of that purpose. So the Quran begins by reminding us that we are a creature, a species that was created with purpose, as we will get to inshallah. This concept of purpose and just to kind of contemplate this a little bit more. The Quran in two places really strongly reprimands the one who claims that Allah created us but without purpose. He created us and left us be, who are commonly classified as deists. They're called deists. I believe in a God. Yes, I believe that God created the universe. He's the supreme being, but He created us and left us be. That's it. Right? That's it. So there is no such thing as structured religion, organized religion. It's okay if you follow a religion, but there's no such thing as organized religion. Why? Because God created us and told us to do what you want. That's it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reprimands these people quite harshly. So at the end of Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala poses a question. It's really a rhetorical question. In the Quran, when it poses a rhetorical question, it tends to have this meaning of, it's called tawbih. It's reprimanding. Someone who claims this. أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Do you think that we created you without purpose? Like عَبَثًا. I mean, it's even, do you think we created you just out of play? We're playing around and say, let's create some things, and okay, look what happened. Let's just observe and see what these human beings do. Right? And that you're not going to return to us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَتَعَالَ اللَّهُ الْمَلِكُ الْحَقِّ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ رَبُّ الْعَرْشِ الْعَظِيمِ. He praises Himself. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's above everything. Someone who claims that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the universe without purpose has taken away from His perfection, as we will get to momentarily. Right? فَتَعَالَ اللَّهُ الْمَلِكُ, the king. Do kings fool around? I know maybe in our times things are a little bit different, but right? But normally it's when a king or a person of high political authority, it is expected of them that every decision that they make has a purpose. There's a goal behind it. They don't just do things randomly, right? Al-Malik al-Haq, the truth. And one of the meanings of al-Haq is that it has purpose. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He created the heavens and the earth bil-Haq, it means with purpose. La ilaha illahu. He is the one and only worthy of worship subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He is the King, Rabbul Arsh al-Kareem. He is the throne, He is the Lord of the gracious throne. Going back to this concept of graciousness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up Surah Al-Alaq with. Allah doesn't do things randomly. He doesn't do things void of purpose. Everything He does, it's based on His graciousness. Right? And that's quite a powerful word. So Kareem, technically, a better translation for it is graciousness, not generosity. Part of it is generosity, but graciousness is even deeper than generosity. Sometimes Allah gives, but sometimes Allah withholds. But when He gives and when He withholds, it's out of His graciousness. Meaning when Allah withholds something from someone, it's meant to give them something better. SubhanAllah. So when Allah doesn't answer the dua of someone, why? It's out of His graciousness. Because, for example, as the Prophet ﷺ says, Allah will not answer the dua of someone because He loves hearing their voice. So when a person's constantly making dua, the same thing over and over again for weeks, months, years, well, every sujood that they make, they're getting a reward for it. And every dua that they make, they're getting a reward for it. And their patience, they're getting a reward for it. And their hope in Allah, they're getting a reward for it. And their trust in Allah, they're getting a reward for it. Whereas if Allah were just to answer a person's dua up front directly, they would have missed all of that good deeds. You see that? So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does something, He does it out of His graciousness. He gives out of His graciousness, and He withholds out of His graciousness. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in these verses, He reprimands those who claim that Allah has created us, created the universe with no purpose, saying that that's not befitting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is above that. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper into this concept in the second place where Allah reprimands such a notion. In the end of Surah Al-Qiyamah, أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَن يُتْرَكَ سُدًى. Do human beings think that they will be left without purpose, suda, right? Without being commanded, without religious responsibility? أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَن يُتْرَكَ سُدًى أَلَمْ يَكُنْ نُطْفَةً مِّن مَّنِيٍّ يُمْنَى ثُمَّ كَانَ عَلَقَةً فَخَلَقَ فَسَوَّى فجعل منه الزوجين الذكر والأنثى أليس ذلك بقادر على أن يحيي الموتى. These are such powerful verses, and it becomes confusing in the beginning. When someone reads this, they might not make sense out of it right away. Were human beings created? Do human beings think that they were created without purpose? And then Allah talks about the stages of the embryo, the fetus. Was he not a clot? A small, what we call a sperm. And then he it slowly developed into a alaqa, right? Into another phase, the fetus, and then to an embryo. And then it became male or female, right? What does this have to do with this concept of purpose? Well, let me give you an analogy before that. Imagine if I were to come, and take this bottle of water and put it right here. And then you ask me, why did I do that? And I say, for absolutely no purpose. I am not trying to prove a point. I am not being silly. I am not making a joke. I'm not trying to do anything. I put it here for absolutely no reason. How do you respond to that? The common answer is no. No, there has to be a reason, right? It doesn't make sense. And then those who want to be a little bit more honest, someone who does that is crazy. We cannot accept anyone doing anything as simple, even as simple as putting a bottle of water down, except that there's a purpose. It could be a dumb purpose. It could be a illogical purpose, but there has to be a reason. Something had to have motivated me, right? To move this here from here to there. There has to be a reason. So then, the question is, do you think Allah created this entire universe with all of its, marvels, with all of its organization and the structure and its sciences, for no reason? This can't be that way. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points to the embryo, what He's telling us, even as an analogy, do you think Allah put so much precision in how a human being is created? And the more you dive into this from a scientific, perspective, there's so much going on. So much going on. I mean, ophthalmology, it's its own science. Right? Neurology, it's its own science. Every part, every organ in the body has its specialty. That's how detailed it is. You spend what? How much is the specialization? How long is the specialization in the medical field? 2, 3, 4 years for one organ. After going through all of the medicine, 4 years undergrad, 8 years in medical school, and you want to specialize, you go even more. Look at how much information is there. Do you think Allah created all of that just to tell you for no reason? He's playing around? Subhanallah. Right? That's why Allah reprimands those who claim this claim. But there's also something key in both of these places that Allah mentions. In the first verses, in Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah says, وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ, and you're not going to return to us. And in the end of Surah Qayyim, Allah concludes, after talking about the stages, He concludes by saying what? أَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ بِقَادٍ عَلَىٰ أَن يُحْيِيَ الْمَوْتَى. Is Allah not, the one who's able to do that, is He not able to resurrect you? Connecting purpose to what? The afterlife. And this is a common theme in the Quran. Belief in Allah is critical, if not conditional, to belief in the next life. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. Those who believe in the next life, believe in it. And this brings us to another element of Yaqadha, awakening. We have purpose. We were created for a reason. No one, us as human beings, we do not accept anyone doing anything except that there's some sort of motive behind it. Be it as silly as it may be. But we will not accept an organized universe for no reason. What is that reason? To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because we are returning to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, Allah created us for a reason. What is that reason? The Quran is quite clear. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah created humans and jinn to worship Him. That is why. So when Allah created Adam alayhi salam, He created him in a way, He created us in a way that's capable of holding, capable of accepting and fulfilling religious responsibility. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ahzab, إِنَّا عَرَضْنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ فَأَبَيْنَ أَنْ يَحْمِلْنَهَا وَأَشْفَقْنَ مِنْهَا وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. Indeed, we created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He presented the amana, religious responsibility, what we call taklif, being religiously accountable, right? Accountability in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We presented that to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, and they refused to hold it. Perhaps what is meant by here is that they didn't have the ability to hold it. They cannot fulfill those responsibilities because of their nature. And we presented it to the human beings, and he was able to hold it, or she was able to hold it. So this verse, although commonly in the books of tafsir, it's showing kind of reprimanding human beings, how reckless they are, but perhaps there's another way of interpreting this, saying that human beings are unique. They were capable of holding this responsibility, fulfilling it, even though the heavens and the earth and the mountains were unable, and by nature, by physical creation, they are stronger than human beings. So this verse is kind of praising the human being. And you are able to do this. But what do most people do? They don't give it its true rights. They forget about it. إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. They are unjust to themselves and to this concept of taklif, religious responsibility, religious accountability. Or ignorant. They don't spend enough time learning about it. They're unaware of it. And that's why we need the Yaqadha, to awaken this reality, to help us really deepen this understanding. I take our attention to Surah An-Naba, a very commonly memorized chapter, a very short chapter, but an interesting one, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, relating this concept of purpose to the next life. عَمَّا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ الَّذِي هُمْ فِيهِ مُخْتَلِفُونَ كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ ثُمَّ كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. Allah opens up this chapter by saying, posing another question. He's asking a question. What are they differing about? What are they asking about? But in this question is kind of this, are they really asking about this? عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ. Are they really questioning this concept, this news, which is the next life? Now the pagan Arabs, they rejected this concept of resurrection. They said, as soon as you die, that's it. You're dead. You cease to exist. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reprimanding this notion. He says, are they really questioning this? Is it hard to grasp this concept? That there's a next life. That the human will be resurrected after that. And then says, كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ ثُمَّ كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. Indeed they will know. Indeed they will know. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes through a series of verses talking about the natural world around us. Well, what's the link here? So he talks about أَلَمْ نَجْعَلِ الْأَرْضَ مِهَادًا وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا وَخَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا وَجَعَلْنَا نَوْمَكُمْ سُبَاتًا وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا وَجَعَلْنَا النَّهَارَ مَعَاشًا وَبَنَيْنَا فَوْقَكُمْ سَبْعًا شِدَادًا وَجَعَلْنَا سِرَاجًا وَهَّاجًا وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ الْمُعْصِرَاتِ مَاءً ثَجَّاجًا لِنُخْرِجَ بِهِ حَبًّا وَنَبَاتًا وَجَنَّاتٍ أَلْفَافًا. It points us to, or takes our attention to, several of the natural phenomena around us. Right? Did we not make the earth kind of like a bed? Not flat, like a bed for you. You can go about easily. You walk around easily. Right? And we made the mountains like pegs. And we made the sun very bright. And we made the night, rest for you. And your sleep kind of cuts off your actions. Right? And the daytime is bright and it's lit outside so you can go about your day. And the clouds bring water, and that water, what we call rain, it rains and irrigates the land, and then vegetation comes out. All this, what is it saying? The sky, it protects. It's like a shield, it's a cover, it's a ceiling. Okay, what's the connection here? Right? The key is in connecting the object with what comes right after. So when Allah says He made the mountains like pegs, what is that telling us? The mountains serve as pegs, and the clouds serve to bring us rain, and the sun serves us to give us light and heat, and the nighttime serves us to what? To allow us to rest. Allah is pointing to each and every one of these things and mentioning its purpose. All these things have a role to play in the ecosystem. Do you think, O human being, we created all this around you? Everything has a purpose. No matter how small or how big. A mosquito has a purpose. It has a role to play in the ecosystem. Oxygen has a role to play in the ecosystem. Trees have a role to play. Mountains, clouds, everything has a role to play. Do you think you, O unique human being, O unique creature, between all of this has no purpose? And notice, all of these things are serving who? You. Meaning you are the center of all this. Do you think you don't have a purpose? So what does Allah say exactly after? Inna jahannama kanat mirsada. Hellfire is waiting. Okay, again, what's the link here? You have a purpose. And like the previous two passages, links to the next life. You have a purpose, and if you know that you have a purpose, once you realize it, then realize hellfire is waiting. Be careful. Why is this concept of the next life constantly being used in light of purpose, or with purpose? Why? Because we cannot have a purpose without a next life. If we cease to exist, then there is no purpose. Because anything that will end, what is it really? How much value does it really have? Not much. How much purpose can you really give it? Not much. If we want to have a purpose, and we want to internalize that purpose, if we want spiritual awakening, we need to recognize not only that we were created with purpose, but our purpose leads to something greater. That is the next life. That we are accountable for our purpose. If you want to wake up spiritually, you need to acknowledge that you are going to pass away, and that one day you will be resurrected, and that one day you will stand in front of Allah. The more you can remember this, the more you can acknowledge this, the more you can live by this, the more awake you will be. This is the reality. So the Quran, in hundreds of verses, if not thousands of verses, thousands of hadith, right? We have so much information about what happens to us after we pass away. From the moment we take our last breath, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي كُنْتُمْ تُوعَدُونَ. As soon as we take our last breath, what happens? The angels come. If you're a good Muslim, fulfilling your responsibilities, praying 5 times, fasting Ramadan, giving your zakah, you do Hajj, you're staying away from the major sins. What happens? The angels come as soon as you take your last breath. Right? And this is also mentioned in the end of Surah Al-Waqi'ah in great detail. وَأَنْتُمْ حِينَئِذٍ تَنْظُرُونَ. As soon as the soul starts leaving the body, you're looking and you see the angels. They're coming. If you're a good Muslim, Allah tells us what happens. The angels come to you and they give you glad tidings and they're saying Salamu Alaikum. After this point, after this moment, there is nothing for you to worry about. There is no pain, there is no grief, there is no sorrow, there is no worry, there is no fear. All of that is gone. Salamun Alaikum. Allah is waiting for you. He's looking forward to meeting you. And then we know what happens. They come with as the hadith tells us, they come with the garments of paradise and the smell of paradise. And there are all these angels around you praising you, glad tidings, and they take you up to the heavens. Right? And you see your place, and then you're asked, and then you sit in your grave, or in that phase. Right? Good Muslim, they'll be rewarded. Their good deeds will accompany them. And then, other narrations you find in scholarship, they say that the windows of paradise are open, you see what's inside. Right? The wind is kind of blowing out, you could smell it. And sometimes, the fruits and the food will come out to you. And you're there. Right? In another narration, the soul goes up. Right? And it meets the people who are already passed away. And they will greet that person. Hello, how are you? Welcome, welcome. What's your name? My name is so-and-so. Where are you from? I'm from the U.S. Oh, the Muslims of the U.S. are over there. And then you go over there. I'm being serious, this isn't hadith. Right? You go over there, and there's the Muslims of the U.S. Welcome, what state were you in? California. The Californians are over there. Right? We're in California, Mission Viejo. Oh, the Mission Viejos are over there. This is literally how it is. We know every detail. What happens on the Day of Judgment. How we're resurrected. Right? What all the fascinating, the marvels of the Day of Judgment. Every reward and every punishment. How we will stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we enter paradise, before entering paradise, to the point where we know what we eat before entering paradise. The liver of a whale comes in a hadith. And the Prophet ﷺ is the first one to enter paradise. He knocks on the door. Who are you? I'm Muhammad ﷺ. We were commanded only to open for you. And then we will all follow. And we know all the details of paradise. Well, is Allah telling us this for no reason? No, because it awakens us. So if you want spiritual awakening, if you want Yaqadha, you need to realize that Allah created us with purpose and that we are returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how it works. If you want Iman, one of the most effective ways of gaining Iman is by constantly remembering the fact that you are going to pass away and that there's a next life. That this life is temporary, it is limited in its time, and it's limited in what it can offer you. Whereas the next life is eternal and it's unlimited. No matter what you can think of, there is more. It is greater. This is spiritual awakening. And this is its foundation. You have a purpose. That purpose is to worship Allah. For that reason, He created the universe the way it is. All of it points to that there is one God. All of it. All of it is speaking to you, the world around you. How many verses does Allah tell us, look at the mountains, look at the clouds, look at the sky, look at the sun, look at the earth, look at the moon, look at all of this. Who created that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who can claim that other than Allah created this? Who can claim? Even pagans will say that the supreme being, the creator, and then they worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But no one can claim that other than Allah, other than the God, the creator, created all of this. He's pointing us to the natural world around us to remind us of Allah. Right? To remind us of what His power, what He can do. To remind us of our purpose. The moon has a purpose. The sun has a purpose. All of this, we have a purpose as well. Our purpose is what? To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore He sent the messengers to remind us. From Adam alayhi salam, to Nuh, to Ibrahim, to Musa, to Isa, to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. All of them, their message was the same. Worship Allah, we have no God besides Him. And He taught us how to do that. Or each and every one of them taught us how to do that. Allah sent down the divine books. What is the thesis? What is the message of each and every book? Worship Allah. In the Bible, the first command is what? Thou shalt love your Lord with all thy heart, right? Or thou shalt not worship other than God. Something like that. I don't have it memorized. It is Tawheed. What is the thesis of the Quran? We mentioned this. What summarizes the Quran? Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een, which this book revolves around. It is you alone we worship, and it is you alone we seek help from. Tawheed. Worship Allah. La ilaha illallah. This is why we were created. And therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the universe, set it up in a way that constantly reminds us of it. So look at the natural world around us and contemplate it. أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَتَكُونَ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا. Have they not traveled the lands? Or will they not travel the lands? And therefore their hearts will understand its realities. Look at that. This is quite powerful. I mean, even if you study it from a secular perspective, being in nature does so much for you. It heals the heart. It relieves stress. Right? Be in nature. Allah created it in a way, it's speaking to you that there's no God worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So worship Him, and remember that all these things die. All these things erode. All these things, will sooner or later cease to exist. But you as a human being, once these objects cease to exist, your existence continues in the next life by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is the foundation of Yaqadha. Now we can build on this. And one of the ways to build on it is what's called basira. Now this is a sub stage of Yaqadha. So Yaqadha is the very first. Under it you have various phases or stages. One of them is basira, insight. Having insight of the natural world around you. What it means. Its purpose. What is it speaking to how is it speaking to you? And we've gone through detail. Also, is seeing through the natural world around you, seeing Allah's names and attributes. Right? So you can deepen your insight of the world around you, of faith, of Islam, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We said that the natural world is speaking to you, saying that Allah created me and He is the only one worthy of worship. Right? It's also showing us who Allah is. And you can tell, or you can kind of derive an author's personality through their work, through their books, what they write. You can kind of tell their personality, how they speak, their demeanor, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the author of the natural world around us, the universe, we can see and know who He is through that. How so? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created the mountains. If we are to describe, give adjectives to the mountains, you can use several. One of them is, what is it? That's how we praise Allah for, right? SubhanAllah. No, but what are the adjectives we can use to describe a mountain? A mountain is, strong. It's massive. It's beautiful, right? Well, the one who created the mountain, by default, must be stronger, more beautiful, right? The one who created, for example, the process, or any scientific process that you see around us, whether it be photosynthesis, the osmosis, the rain, the cycle of rain, right? Anything like that. Isn't the one who created that someone who created it? You can find knowledge in it. There's so much knowledge it offers, and it's done in a way that's very wise, very unique. Well, is the one who created that not more knowledgeable and more wise? SubhanAllah. Like that. And Allah uses this in the Quran, and you find it in the Sunnah as well. Right? So when Hud, the civilization of Ad, they were very powerful. They were the superpower of their time. And they had this civilization that was unrivaled at their time. And they would say, Man ashaddu minna quwwa. Who is stronger than us? They boast, who's stronger than us? So Allah replies, أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا أَنَّ اللَّهَ الَّذِي خَلَقَهُمْ هُوَ أَشَدُّ مِنْهُمْ قُوَّةً. Have they not seen, or do they not know that the one who created them is even more powerful than them? You have the analogy. If you find power in human beings, is not the one who created them more powerful? If human beings are a people of knowledge, are a creature of knowledge, we learn, is not the one who created us more knowledgeable? Right? So Allah uses this. And an example in the hadith. After a battle, a woman was panicking looking for her infant. When she found the infant, she quickly took the baby and started to nurse it. So the companions are watching this, and the Prophet ﷺ says, do you think that this lady would throw her child in a fire and she's able not to do that? He said, of course she's not going to do that. So what does the Prophet ﷺ say? He said, know that Allah is more merciful than this mother is to its child. The analogy. If we have mercy, if we see mercy around us, then that is only a figment of what Allah is, His mercy. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. Because of mercy from Allah, you are lenient with them. Talking to the Prophet ﷺ. If you find mercy in your heart towards your companions, towards your people, towards humans, know that that source is from Allah. Allah is the source of mercy, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So by looking at the world around us, by reflecting on it, by really trying to understand why Allah created things this way, what we find is that we see His names and attributes in it, in His creation, speaking to us, letting us know who He is. I mean, recently we saw the picture of the black hole. It's fascinating. What is a black hole? What does it do? What is its purpose? What is its role? Right? It just opened a new science for us. All that we know is so little in comparison of what we don't know. وَمَا أُوتِيتُ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. And the knowledge that you have been given is very little. Right? Imagine someone had all the knowledge that we have ever attained from day one until now. All of it in one person. We would see that person as a phenomenon, right? A prodigy. If we think of like Einstein, right? Einstein was right once again. We think that this is so special, this is amazing. No, not just Einstein. Imagine all the Einsteins that have ever existed, all the information that we have ever attained is in one person. That is absolutely marvelous. But when you compare that knowledge to the knowledge of Allah, it's not even a little bit. As Khadr tells Musa alayhi salam, when that bird pecked and took a drop of water to drink, Khadr says, our knowledge in comparison to Allah is like this drop of water in comparison to this ocean. Isn't that something to really appreciate and to reflect on who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is? So this is one of the ways we can deepen our insight through recognizing Allah's names and attributes. Another way is studying and appreciating His commands, the halal and the haram, the obligations and the prohibitions. Why are these things obligatory? Why are they, prohibited? Insight in this also lets us know who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And it's important that this is built off the foundation we were speaking about. Our purpose is what? To worship Allah. And therefore, the legal system that the Quran provides, that our Prophet ﷺ taught us, revolves around this. All of it is about what? Being able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Directly or indirectly. Why do we pray 5 times a day? It is our connection to Allah. Why do we fast Ramadan? Because it gives us the strength. On top of the fact that it is an act of worship, it keeps our heart, it keeps the desires in our heart limited to where it does not take us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is zakah an obligation? Because on top of the fact that it's an act of worship in of itself, it limits the effects of materialism in our hearts, so that it does not take us away from Allah. Pilgrimage, the same thing. Why is alcohol prohibited? For many reasons, right? There are medical reasons why, and studies are now showing that even 1 glass a day, say one glass of wine a day is good. Now they're saying it's even better. 1 glass. Because alcohol, what does the Quran say? إنما يريد الشيطان أن يوقع بينكم العداوة والبغضاء في الخمر والميسر ويصدكم عن ذكر الله وعن الصلاة. That alcohol and gambling, why is it prohibited? On top of the fact that it creates animosity between you, creates problems, it takes you away from the remembrance of Allah and prayer. So when you find something's prohibited, the way we understand it is, how does this thing take me away from Allah? That's why it's prohibited. And yes, there will be other reasons too, other wisdoms. It's unhealthy, it's bad for you. But if you are unhealthy, if you're physical status is weak, how are you going to worship Allah? If you're sick, you don't have the strength to worship Allah. So it's keeping you healthy. Why? So that you always have the energy to worship Allah. That's why. When Allah tells us to do something, when He prohibits us from something, the wisdom behind it is because it keeps us fulfilling our purpose. It protects us from that which takes us away from our purpose. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And finally, we'll conclude with this: al-wa'd wal-wa'id. Allah's promises and Allah's threats. Understanding why Allah promises us reward and why He threatens us with consequences if we don't fulfill our commands. All of it revolves around making sure we stick to our purpose. By threatening us with consequences, with punishment, it's not because Allah is looking forward to punishing us. It's not because Allah is like a cop who has a quota to reach. So He hides behind some sort of, object, so where He's clocking you before you can see Him. And man, if you're speeding, you're done. Pulling you over, He's giving you a ticket. Regardless of your situation, you can cry all you want. You're getting that ticket. There's no mercy there. That's not why Allah does this. Allah threatens us with consequences. Why? To motivate us to stick to our purpose. To motivate us not to deviate from our purpose, because when we deviate from our purpose, strange things happen. It leads to unhappiness, dissatisfaction. Right? And from a spiritual perspective, if we were to understand the world around us today, our context, what's going on, we're going to explain it from a spiritual perspective. Humans have deviated severely, greatly from the purpose. Back in the day, right, people always had some sort of God-centered lifestyle. Christians were devout Christians who were focused on God. Jews were devout Jews focused on God. Muslims were they're focused on God, on the afterlife. Even pagans, whatever it is, they were living some sort of God-centered life. And although we believe their theologies or other theologies are problematic, there's still God in the picture. They're still somewhat attached to their purpose. Now it's completely broken apart, and we are seeing very strange things happen, unprecedented in human history. Well, what does people's being distant from God have to do with that? Is there something going on there? Well, from a religious perspective, we're going to say, yeah, there's a lot going on there, right? And there's other legitimate ways of explaining it, right? Just because we speak of something from a spiritual perspective does not negate the biological, implications, the psychological implications. We believe all of this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He created the natural world, and He also commanded the spiritual world, and they go hand in hand if they are authentic. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises us with paradise, with reward, with gardens and castles, which rivers are flowing beneath you, eternal bliss, right? And most importantly, happiness. Allah promises us happiness in this life and the next life, the universal goal. Why? To motivate us, to make sure we stick to our purpose. Also, for us to use as an indicator of how on track we are. We said in the explanation of Surah Al-Fatiha, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path. Allah sends us signals, whether we're on it or not. So if we're dedicated to it, we're following the straight path, and Allah sends us rewards. We feel the benefits of being on the straight path. And if someone deviates, right, some people call it punishment. He punishes them. There's a better way of wording it. Allah's reminding them by testing them with dissatisfaction. Because when we're dissatisfied, when we're going through hard times, our mind starts working. Why is this happening? We ask the question, what's going on? Is there something I need to change? When people who are more religiously practicing, some bad things happen to them, they're going through a test, a hardship. one of the common questions is, I want to make sure I'm not doing something wrong. It clicks in their mind, right? It's a reminder for us. If we deviate, Allah is with His wisdom reminding us, you're off the track. There's something else, Go back to the straight path. So Allah promises us these things. Why? To let us know when we're on the straight path, to encourage us. You're doing well. Go for it. When you get report cards, it's very nice to see those A's. Right? It's very motivating. I got A's. It's bringing me happiness. My parents are giving me reward. They're happy. They're giving me $20 per A or whatever parents are giving today. To motivate you, this is the right path. And if we're not doing it, if we're getting C's and D's and F's, it's very demoralizing. Even for someone who doesn't care, it's very stressful. Well, this is not what you're meant to be. You're meant to get A's, right? So Wa'ad and Wa'id, looking at understanding why Allah threatens with hellfire and why He promises, encourages with paradise. There's a wisdom behind it to keep us on the straight path. Why? Because when we're on the straight path, we are awakened. We are acknowledging what's going on. We understand it. We are able to process it. And that brings us happiness. Understanding this concept of basira, having insight of why Allah is telling us what He tells us in the Quran. And the best way to do it is to recognize the foundation, our purpose. This is our purpose. We were created to worship Allah. For that reason He created the universe. For that reason He sent messengers. For that reason He sent down books. For us to be on this straight path, worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everything that branches from this, no matter how primary or how secondary the concept might be, all of it revolves around keeping us on this straight path, the path of purpose, the path of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to awaken our hearts and to allow us to be among those who have captured the wisdom, the meaning behind the world around us. Those who, when they look at the mountains and the sky and the clouds and all this beauty that this earth has to offer us, it's more than just a scientific phenomenon, but rather it's we elevate it to where it's telling us how much Allah loves us, that He created for us a universe that caters to our needs, right? And we can see how these things beautify our lives and bring us happiness. This is very important, because if you can transform the world around you, what you see around you, into something that reminds you of Allah, your most beloved, that is a paradise. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us reach that. Ameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Jazakumullah.